Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Wired for Logic podcast. I'm Wes Ulmer with Logic Wire AI. I've got my guest today, John Juveno, he's the owner of VibraWaste and BBB Septic and Portable Toilets. John, could you share a little bit more about how you got started in the industry and what attracted you to this business?
Sure. Yeah. So it was never at career day where somebody said, "Hey, would you like to handle human waste for a living?" I can guarantee you that. Yeah. No, I mean, interesting story. I was a mechanic. My mom and dad were not business savvy, but they did some network marketing stuff back when I was a kid. And I would go to these network marketing meetings and they were always talking about, if you have a job, you're just over broke or you're the jackass of the boss, or they had all these acronym or sayings that would go along with having a job. And I just knew something tripped in me when I was a kid that I knew I wanted to work for myself. I get into high school, and I was flipping hamburgers at 14 or 15 years old for like, I don't know, $1.45 an hour or something like that. I'm an old dude. And this guy offered me a chance to come to help him in his automotive repair shop, and he was going to pay me $2.25. And I thought, I'm fixing to get slammed wealthy on this thing. So I went to work for him, and I found out that I had a knack. I'm very mechanically minded. So it was very easy for me to pick up on working on cars and how all that worked. Went through high school the last 2 years. I was in a work study program, so I only went to high school for a couple hours the last 2 years of school, and the rest of the day I got credit for actually going to work. And then a few years later, the guy that I was working for started a second location. He moved me out there. A year later, he decided he didn't want to have the second location, and I'd already gotten myself established out there. And I don't know if you've ever read E-Myth Revisited, but the story of Sarah and bacon pies is my story as far as being a business owner. I was really good at being a mechanic. I had no clue about how to run a business. And, it's two totally different things. Just because you're really good at something doesn't mean you know how to run a company that does whatever you're really good at. So I had that business for about 9 years, crashed at $250,000 in debt. I ended up moving to Northwest Arkansas. My wife's a school teacher. Her twin lived up here. I had fixed up my truck as a mobile repair rig. And so I would get up, take my daughters to school. I would go work at an automotive repair shop here in Northwest Arkansas during the day, come home, eat dinner with the family, go back out and work on fleet trucks at night that I had gone around and gotten customers like Feral Gas and Golden Flake potato chip trucks and different companies like that where their trucks weren't running at night, but they just needed somebody to do simple maintenance and repair on them. And by doing that, I didn't file bankruptcy. I was paying off all that $250,000 by working all those extra hours. My wife was doing some extracurricular things as well, selling jewelry and some different things. But I was too dumb to know how to file bankruptcy. This company, BBB, was one of my fleet customers. And so I was working on their trucks at night. At that time, they only had a couple of trucks and they were not in good shape. They were beaters. And then, they had about 65 toilets on a toilet route that they were doing. It's a small company at the time. This is back in the mid 90s. I said, what does it pay to run a toilet truck? So I ran the portable toilet route for them, and I'm pretty OCD about things. So I was really cleaning them well. And that made a big difference in our region. People saw the difference. And so within a year, we were more than doubled the amount of toilets out on the route. I had come to work for the company full time. And interestingly enough, the guy that I was working for was one of three brothers. That owned the company. The brothers and he couldn't get along. They wanted him to buy them out. So the gentleman I was working for and a good friend of mine, which ended up the guy that I was working for, Phil, he was dating a good friend of mine's little sister. And so that good friend of mine had experience. Dave, he's my current business partner. He had experience with business management. He also worked for a lumber company that had all these construction sites that he sold lumber to. So I don't know how Phil did it, but he talked the three of us into starting a new corporation. That corporation got a small business loan and bought him and his brothers out. And Phil remained a part of the new company up until about 2013 or 14. Covered a lot of ground there, but suffice it to say, we survived the economic downturn of 7, 8, 9, 10. It was hard. It was hard.
Oh, yeah.
But
I remember that.
We made it through, but we had never busted the $1 million mark in revenue. Just a small mom and pop shop, just three dudes, just trying to figure out how to get life done. And I had shoulder surgery in, I think, 2013. I was competing in Tough Mudder competitions at the time, trying to prove that I was still young, and blew my shoulder out and had to have surgery. And what happened, it was kind of a oceans collide type, the worlds collide type thing. We had never done over $1 million in revenue. The partnership between the three of us was strained. It was just some personality conflicts mainly, I think. But when I had shoulder surgery, I was forced to sit down for a while and not be able to work. I couldn't operate a truck or track hoe or any of the kind of excavation equipment or anything that we were doing at the time. And so I started looking at all of our, and this is when, yellow pages were fading out, and people were trying to figure out what digital was looking like. And, back before that in the early 2000s, your business was relegated to how much money you were willing to spend on a yellow pages ad.
Yep. I
Right?
remember that.
I mean, yeah, it was brutal, and you thought you did the right thing, and then the phone book comes out only to find out your competitor went ahead and made his ad a lot bigger than yours. So it was not an easy way to play. It's so much easier now that everything is digital. But I helped walk us through having just a website that was a landing page that nobody ever visited, to where now, we get 5, 6, 8 emails a day or leads a day where people go onto our website, they fill out all their information, and it turns into a real customer before we even talk to them.
That's
And so,
fantastic.
yeah, so during that time, and then Phil, the guy that we really kind of could not get along with for whatever reason, his wife got a job promotion and it required her to move to North Carolina. And so we ended up buying him out,
Oh no,
and he
Phil's
left.
moving. That's unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a lot more we could talk about that, but that's probably not what this is about. I think I think in 2012 or 13, we did like 685,000 gross revenue as a company. He left in May of that year, and by the end of that next year, we were at 1.2 million.
Man.
And yeah, it had doubled and almost doubled in volume. And it was really just because everything got succinct. Everything got just everything just planed out. When you're in a boat or in an airplane and you're trying to get that lift and you're trying to get what you need, but then when you get up to the right speed and you plane that motor out just right, then it just glides, right? Well,
Yep.
that's really what happened to our business. And it wasn't just a few years later that we were doing 2 and 3 and almost 4 million in revenue. So, that was a great journey, and we definitely used digital for 99.9% of that growth. I mean, we digitized how we did our scheduling. We digitized how we tracked our trucks. Everything we do now is all either on an app or in a program of some sort. We're looking into the AI thing. We've used it for a little bit of things, but we haven't really made that jump. And, we might talk about that. You might school me on that as time goes on. But no, we've had a great, and then, around 6 to 10 years ago, we started having problems with being able to dump our trucks. The municipal wastewater plants are not keeping up with the growth around us. They were cutting us off, and if our trucks are full, we're out of business.
Yeah.
So my partner and I came up with what we call the clean water farm. And basically we configured a system whereby our trucks have places to dump that are close to where they're working. And then we have a bulk hauler that picks it up from there, takes it out to our farm that's a little over 80 acres. And we process about 4.5 million gallons of wastewater a year through that farm. We're in the process of adding more farmland to that. Our neighbors all want to be a part of it. So we'll be quadrupling our capacity here in the next year. But we've put in some really neat processes where we can basically clean our water up, and everything goes back to being something good in nature. You mentioned Vibra Waste earlier, and that's one of the things that we created a machine to help facilitate us being able to handle our own wastewater in a very effective way. Before, when we used to dump our trucks, it would take you 45 minutes to an hour and a half to dump a truck because your gravity flow, and you're having to sit there and rake all the trash out of the wastewater
Yep.
stream. And it's just arduous, and it's nasty, and nobody wants to do it, and it takes a long time. And so now our trucks can 4,000 gallon septic truck can come up and dump in 10 minutes, and the guys don't have to do anything but turn the machine on. We can dump the truck at full push. And so that means my guys are only there for less than 10 minutes, maybe 15 by the time they hook and
That's
unhook
a
the
huge
hoses. And
efficiency increase right there.
yeah, so when you figure, if a septic pump out's $500 per pump out, if I can add 1 to 2 more pump outs a day to each truck, if I'm running 3 trucks, one truck, 500 gallon, $500 extra a day revenue to that truck is 10 grand a month additional revenue per truck. So yeah, it
Times
doesn't
12
take long to,
months.
so it times 3 trucks.
Yep.
So it doesn't take long for that math. And, and the same thing with the clean water farm. We were spending, $15,000 a month in dump fees going to the wastewater treatment plants. And it cost us about $1 million to do the clean water farm when we did it several years ago. And the payback at that time, I don't remember what our interest rate was, but the payback was about somewhere between $5,000 and $6,000 a month. Okay, well, if it's $6,000 a month, and that's what our payment is to do our own processing, I just put $9,000 a month back to our operating. So in doing those things, yeah, it sounds like we spent a lot of money, but in essence, by doing just those 2 things, we've added incredible amount of revenue back to our bottom line. So
Yeah, I like how, there's so many people out there that when they're met with obstacles, just throw their hands up in the air and go, "Oh, I don't know what we're going to do. We're spending all this money on the wastewater dumping, and then they're turning us away and the costs are going up. I guess we'll just have to just throw the towel in and give up." But instead, you guys were like, "Hey, this is the problem. How do we develop a solution?" So how does
right.
your wastewater farm, how does that actually work? Like, what does that mean? I don't know
Well,
what a wastewater farm is. Can you tell me a little bit
I
more about
know.
that?
Well, nobody knows what a clean water farm is because we invented it, and so nobody
Okay,
else has done.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of like with my machine that I developed. It's not rocket science. I took different machinery out of different industries, out of the mining and the oil field industry, and then also out of the food processing industry. And I just tweaked them and put them together in a way that fit what we needed to do. And with the clean water farm, we're allowed to land apply about 2 million gallons a year on that farm. And we've, like I said, all of our neighbors around us, we have depots that our trucks dump in, and they dump through our Muck Raker is the name of the machine that Vibra Waste produces. They dump through that machine. It filters everything out. Then we have a bulk hauler that comes by. If we're going to land apply that load, in other words, if we're going to go out to a field and we're going to put a duckbill on there and spray that out on the field where we're growing hay for fertilizer, then he adds hydrated lime, which is a natural additive. It's not chemicals. And that hydrated lime elevates the pH of that water up to over 12. And when you get up over 12, you neutralize the bacteria and the pathogens, the things that actually cause the odor. So you really eliminate your odor at that point. You cause all of those things to become inert. And so it takes a 45-minute ride out to the farm, and it's sloshing around the back of the truck and mixing. By the time we get out to the farm, we've got a land application unit that's got floater tires on it so we don't compact the soil when we're driving over it. And then the fields that we grow, I mean, normally around where we are, you get about 2 hay cuttings a year for your cattle and livestock, and we get at least 3, if not 4, because of the way we irrigate our fields. So we're turning all that back into more productive. If the weather is rainy or cold or whatever, and we can't really land apply, then we put it in storage tanks underground, and then once we get enough to run a batch of about 20,000 gallons, we pull that through a polymer blending unit, and the polymer is injected into the wastewater stream. The polymer acts as a magnet to cause the solids to all clump together, and it releases the water molecules so that they can be released and they flow out. And so we put them into this large cylinder that has a filter media in it, and it keeps all the solids in there, releases the water. The water goes out to a holding tank. That water is then dosed out. We've either got lateral lines out in the field where it can just go out and re-enter the water table. What we're trying to get permitted on right now is we've got a customer that wants us to grow 20,000 trees a year for them for landscaping purposes. And we can use that nutrified water to basically do drip irrigation to each of those trees. And that will be just another profit center for how we turn waste to value. I'm not permitted for that
That's
yet, but that's what we're,
genius. So you're taking people's poop water,
Right.
you're cleaning it, and then you're using it as another profit center to do. Oh, that's
Correct.
fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. And then the solids that come off of that, we've started a third vertical integration in net zero waste, but we take the solids and we run them through what's called pyrolysis, and the pyrolysis is extra high heat, so 1600 degrees heat and very low oxygen, so it creates a charcoal. But basically, there's a lot of stuff going around right now about PFAS and microplastics, and it's a lot of this forever chemicals that are very dangerous to us. There's lawsuits that are starting to surface, and if you're in our industry, you hear about all that. If you're in the mainstream, or if you're not in our industry, you may or may not have heard of it. But everybody's kind of heard about the microplastics and that
Yep.
kind of thing. The cool thing is our polymer actually helps to pull those the PFAS and the microplastics into the solids, and it kind of helps separate and keeps them bound up with the solids. We run those solids through the pyrolysis machine, and it turns it into a biochar, which is a charcoal that does two things. It actually is sequestering carbon, which is how you get carbon credits, which are not taxable, by the way.
Nice.
And then it also creates an offtake that's so the University of Arkansas did a test on they had a golf course where the fairway wasn't greening up, and they couldn't figure out what to do to make it do that. They turned it over to the U of A as a project. They used a recipe, and in that recipe they use biochar as one of the additives to the soil. Biochar is real porous, and so it allows water to kind of like a water bladder, because it kind of holds water. It also gives the microbes a place to live that help deliver the nutrients to your plants. And so they put it in the soil. Well, that fairway is now the greenest fairway of the golf course, and it uses 20% less water than the rest of the golf course because the water stays up close to the roots of the grass. So it's all very efficient. If you have a sod farm, you're cutting about a half inch of dirt off every time you harvest. So it's usually, when you buy a sod farm, they calculate the capex on it's about 25 years of lifespan on being able to. That's what they do all their calculations on, right? If they plow biochar in when they're replanting every third year, it triples the life of that farm to 75 years. So you can imagine, if you do an investment on a business, then you think your play is 25 years. And for the same amount of money invested, now you can get it to be 75 years. Imagine how much more profitable that sod farm would be. So there's all kinds of ways to use biochar. So we're going to sell that as an offtake. And then we've got municipalities that can't get rid of their solids right now. They're either having to send them to a landfill or send them into another state to be land applied. And all that's coming to a stop. Their land applications being stopped in state after state right now. So we just figured when we built our biochar facility, we'd build it big enough to be able to take the solids from wastewater treatment plants around
So
us.
now you can charge them to take their. I love it. I love it.
And it's recession proof because, everybody pays their sewer and water bill even when the economy is bad, because it's just part of what we do. And those municipality contracts that we're getting to be able to do this, it's very easy to get funding for a project when you've got municipal contracts that are, long term, and they know that, they're never not going to pay their bill. Right.
Right.
So now with net zero, we're going to be charging the people who used to cause us a lot of pain are going to have to pay us now. So we've got a revenue stream there. Then we get paid for the offtake that we sell to the sod farms and whoever's going to buy this stuff. We've got people identified already. And then the third thing is it qualifies us for carbon credits. And so the carbon credits is a whole nother financial world that most entrepreneurs don't get into, but we've dove deep into it and figuring out that's another profit center that's not taxable. So that's just free money to us.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've had a bunch of different conversations with a bunch of different people in various verticals, a lot in the clean energy space. And I was talking with a guy a couple of weeks ago about carbon credits. There was can't remember what, I think they did efficiency studies on various companies, and especially ones that use refrigerant and things like that to calculate carbon credits. I don't know how all that stuff works because I'm not in that particular field, but it's interesting. I just love how you've kind of come full circle now. Before, these guys were kind of a thorn in your side, not taking your wastewater, charging you exorbitant fees. You created your own solutions, and now you're selling it back to That's just fantastic. I love the growth as well. And so I've had SD Tech for 25 years. And at
Hmm.
the very beginning, it was very slow growth, very slow growth. Probably the first 12 years that we were in operation, I think I only got up to maybe like 330K in gross revenue
Yeah.
for the year. And the $1 million mark is funny you mentioned that. That's kind of like the you have your eye on that prize. Like if I can only get to $1 million, you think
Right.
everything's going to be hunky dory after that, but it's really not. But it's
Yeah.
a good goal to get to. It's a good goal. So
Absolutely.
I've had a couple buddies of mine that they had an IT company, I had an IT company, and we talked about, hey, maybe if we join forces together, we can grow this thing bigger. So you have, four owners. 'Cause I had a friend of mine I'd known for a long time, and then these other two brothers. So the four of us formed an IT, and that was around 2012, 2014 timeframe. And within short order, we grew it to where we were doing $1 million a year. And it was
Hmm.
incredible to us to have that, to reach that mark, to have that growth. We were funneling all new business into 210 IT, but there were some differences of opinion, as there always are with multiple owners.
Oh yeah.
We have ironically, where our office is now, on the opposite end of the strip center, there's a Massage Heights. I've been going to see my massage therapist there probably 10 years at this point in time. And when I was talking with her one day when I went in, I said, hey, what's going on with y'all's phones up front? Oh, they're messing up. They can't hear the customer, and they're like messing with the connection, the headset, and owner's going to have to buy a new phone system. He's kind of cheap. Like he doesn't want to spend money on stuff like that. And I was like, well, we do phones. Would you guys be open to trying our phone system? And well, you could talk to the manager. And so I get out of my session, I go up front and I said, hey, could I speak to the manager? And of course, they'll, what's wrong? What happened? Is everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine. I just want to talk with her about y'all's phones. And so she comes out, I kind of chat with her for a minute, and she says she'll go talk to the owner. Well, I find out that the owner is the co-founder of the company. So Massage Heights is a franchise, and he and his wife at the time had founded the company, and this was one of their corporate locations. And so he calls me up, and I'm very nervous to talk to him because he's like the co-founder of the company, and yes, sir, let's set you up with a trial. You guys can try it out for 30, 60 days, no cost. And then if you guys like it, you just pay us the monthly recurring fee. And so he likes the idea, and he's going to think about it for a couple of days. I go back to my business partner and say, hey, co-founded the company. He owns 4 locations. I think if we can get in with this guy, we can get in with the rest of the franchise system. And they had about 100, 110 locations at the time. That's a
Right.
huge opportunity. All we have to do is come out of pocket around $1,800. Buy him the phones, buy him the switch, buy him the router, the phone system license, all that stuff, and set it up. And the two brothers, they kind of poo-pooed the idea and said, oh, that's $1,800. It's going to take us 2 years to ROI on that. It's like, you're not listening. Like, this is the first location. We get this location. He'll do the other 3. There's other owners in the system that have multiple locations. It'll be easy. And so our second owner that we got connected with, she only had 3 at the time. Now she's one of our favorite franchisees. She has 8 Massage Heights here in San Antonio. And we've
Right.
since then taken over probably about 80-ish locations. We do all the support for corporate. We do all their new build outs across the US. And so that opportunity has ballooned out to be all of
Hmm.
this. It was an introduction to the Gents Place, which is a men's grooming salon. And then we got connected to glow tanning. I'm sure you've seen those. You're in Arkansas, you said, right?
Yeah.
There's a ton of
Yeah.
glow tannings in Arkansas.
Yeah. We've got a gents place here too.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
In Little Rock, or where is it?
Bentonville.
Bentonville. Okay, that's right. Yep. So they've got quite a few locations around, and the glow tannings are just exploding. We did one. Our most recent one was in Searcy. We did one in Little Rock, Fayetteville, Paragould, and can't remember the other one. There's a bunch over there, and
Oh
there's
yeah.
more. It was amazing to me with them. They started out in Arkansas, and then he kind of sold those locations, moved to Oklahoma, and then he started the franchise, and then now he's exploded all over the country. They've got like 200 locations coming in the pipeline, and they're already up to like 130, and just it's incredible, their growth.
Yeah.
I've never seen in a franchise system like with Massage Heights, we're used to very slow and gradual growth. With glow tanning, the one that opened the Fayetteville location, she opened Paragould very quickly, Searcy, and then she has another one that she even had before that. But it's just like 4 locations now, and these things are like 1.5 million to open, and she just opened them like one after the next, after the next, after the next. That's
Sure.
how profitable these things are for her.
Oh yeah.
And it's just incredible. Have you ever thought about franchising what you guys have?
Yeah, so we could easily franchise what BBB has done, because my what we've built in our office and how we watch everything, schedule everything, we could easily run multiple states from our one admin position, no problem. And with the way we've got our software, and I mean, it would be very easy for us to wash, rinse, repeat. The only issue is just having the actual talent and knowledge pool that we would need in each place. We've thought about that. My partner and I'm 61 and he's 65, fixing to be 66. I don't know, man. It's like, well, enough is enough. I mean, how long do we ride this horse with our joust out in front of us, our spear. So, but I actually had a meeting with the franchise team, attorney team last week, because we have been looking at, okay, this whole clean water farm thing. I actually spoke at a national convention a couple of months ago, and I'm being asked to speak around the country now about how we've done what we've done. And so we've got people in Ohio and Colorado that are wanting to do exactly what we've done here. And so we're like, okay, well, do we just do a clean water farm franchise? And then we provide all of the template. How do you get the permitting? How do you build the facility? How do you do the operations? All that kind of stuff. And we're in the process of discovering, is that a play that we want to do, or do we basically just sell, trademark it and then sell the licensure of using that likeness across the board? And I don't know how much you've gotten into franchise stuff. It's a little bit complicated.
It is.
And you get into a deal, there's some barriers to entry for me. So I'm not sure if we're going to go that route. We've talked about it. And with the clean water farm, we're definitely looking at the fact that we're probably 5-6 years ahead of the curve. They've actually got an emergency task force that's been formulated over the last couple of years to address this situation. And I was at a conference in Oklahoma a couple of months ago, and I sat in on this roundtable discussion with this task force. And they're saying all these things, and I leaned over to my sales guy that was sitting next to me. I said, "How's it feel to be a time traveler?" I mean, these are things that we were discussing 6 and 10 years ago, and
Yep.
we've already got it fixed. And so we find ourselves in a cool spot where we're far enough ahead of the game that people are seeing us as professional, as experts in our field. And so now we are starting to help explain and share how we've done what we've done. And I don't know if it'll turn into a franchise, but yeah, we've had that thought process. Just not sure if that's the right model to follow for us or not.
Sure. I mean, if you're ever interested, so we've franchised SD Techs. Back in 2019, I had my COO join me, and he's been like my right-hand man and really helped get the company going in the right direction. And because of him, we got the right talent on board, and we were finally able to break through that $1 million barrier.
Right.
It was incredible. I finally felt like we had systems in place and people in place to be able to do something like franchise SD Tech. And so we got with a gentleman he's in California. His name's Scott Simsick. Very nice guy. It's a very boutique type company. So he's not out there like, advertising. Turn your business into a franchise. You kind of have to look for him.
Right.
He's got a lot of years of experience in franchising, and it might be worth at least having a conversation. If you're ever interested, I can introduce you.
Yeah.
I think you guys have everything that you're telling me sounds amazing. And that sounds like, and especially like the operational side of things, that's where a lot of people struggle. Yeah, it makes sense. Like you buy trucks, you pick up wastewater, you charge people, but there's a lot of logistics behind it. Just like with a lot of people that want to be in IT. It's like, oh, do you know how to work on a computer? Yeah, sure. You can work on a computer. Do you know how to run a business? What
Right.
about when you're trying to start an IT company? Like what I struggled with when I was first starting is, okay, I know how to do the technology side of things. I know how to do the sales side of things, but then you're trying to, you sell services to a client, and then all your time is chewed up servicing that client. So how do you go out and sell to the next client? So it's like you're pushing a boulder up a hill. We created the franchise to where, okay, you want to start an IT company. We have all the systems in place for that already, kind of like you guys do for your wastewater stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then we support our franchisees on the operational side. So they just go out for the first year and they sell IT services to businesses. They in turn rely on us for the support. If I would have had a framework like that at the beginning, where all I have to do the first year is just go out and find clients. I don't have to worry about servicing those clients.
Right.
Man, I could have gotten $1 million so much quicker.
Oh yeah.
But you know, you're dealing with all the clunkiness of trying to sell and support, and then you don't have any employees. You're trying to do it all yourself, and having
Hmm.
that support system is provides a lot of value. If you guys could truly run operations, like you said, from your current admin setup and current technology setup in multiple states, you could just charge those franchisees. We call it a one team cost.
Hmm.
We charge them a one team fee, which essentially offsets the cost of us having our people here at corporate that then do the support for their clients. After that first year, great. You want to hire technicians, you want to hire additional admins, you want to hire whoever, you do it. But year one, no hiring technicians. Let us deal with that part of it. You just worry
Right.
about building your book of business as your foundation for your revenue, and then you
Hmm.
can grow it from there.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be interested in talking. Yeah, I mean, Discovery. It's funny if you look at my calendar now. I mean, I don't have anything to do with our day to day anymore in any of these businesses. I'm strictly the visionary, and I'm the MacGyver. I'm the guy that figures out the solution to it. When we've got somebody that wants to buy one of our machines, I'm the guy that drives down and visits their site, and I look at what problem they're trying to fix, and then I come back and engineer it all out and make sure it's going to fit. Um, but yeah, but our day to day, I don't really have a lot to do with that anymore, and it's a glorious thing. I mean, I haven't had to be in the day to day for probably 6, 7, 8 years now. Time goes by; it's actually maybe closer to 10 now, I would imagine. But when I was able to step back and able to, I kind of describe it as being a drone. I'm at 30,000 feet. If I see a troubled spot or a bottleneck or something in our process, or somebody's having problems, of course, I'm the guy with the most information and most experience out in the field as well. So if we come into a job site problem that none of our people have faced yet, I'm usually the guy they call to go, okay, we got a new one for you, and so I have to come in and fix that. But other than that, I'm hovering up at about 30,000 feet, which is it's a great thing. But yeah, with everything we've done digital, I can see any part of our business 24/7 from my MacBook or my iPhone, and I can see what we're doing. I can see everything about our finances. I can see everything about our scheduling, about our GPS routing, the whole nine yards. I can see any of it anytime I need to from my MacBook. So
That's awesome. Well, it
yeah.
sounds like you guys have managed to solve a lot of your operational efficiencies over the years, or I should say
Hmm.
inefficiencies, and made them more efficient, using these systems and technologies and things like that. And I love how you've innovated and come up with unique solutions that weren't on the market already. And it does sound like you
Right.
guys are ahead of the curve in a lot of different areas. If you could wave a magic wand and you could get technology and or AI to do anything you wanted to do, like a technology genie in a bottle, what problem would you try to solve in your business right now?
Well, the first thing I would do is, and this is going to be totally silly for you, but on my LinkedIn and on my Facebook page and my Instagram, I have for years, I have just every day I put out just something positive. It's a quote from Mark Twain or a quote from Napoleon Hill or Mother Teresa or whoever. I mean, I'm just always every day I put one post out there, and in my mind I'm just dripping one positive seed a day out into my social media. I have people that do that for my business accounts, but because my LinkedIn is my personal page and my Facebook is my personal page, it's not a business page. I've tried to find AI and other things that would actually go out and do those posts for me and just schedule it and just handle it. And because it's a personal page and not a business page, none of the things that I've been able to find would do that. Now that's a selfish thing because it's a simple little task that I have to do every day, and in my mind it's like I'm handcuffed to that because there's not a. I used to use Hootsuite,
Hmm.
and then Hootsuite changed their rules to where they can't do it for personal pages. It has to be for a business page, right? So anyway, that's probably a simple thing, and you may know the answer to it. However, I've talked to a lot of people, and they say, "Oh yeah, that's easy to fix." And then they're like, "No, you're right. If it's a personal page, you can't do that." So that would be the first thing that I would fix. As far as AI goes, I've seen some incredible things. as far as like AI receptionists and, with even like executive assistant type roles where AI comes in and kind of looks at your calendar and does a lot of that things. I don't know if it's my age. I don't know. I mean, even the team I have in my office, I've got an admin team is 4 ladies that handle all of our phone calls and they deal with all of our customers, whether it's digital, online, or phone calls. And we do have a lot, we have chat bots and stuff that will ask questions and things to get people through the click funnel to where now they're sitting in our desk. But we I haven't been able to get my office staff comfortable with trying to allow AI to do more of that. They still feel like it's very important for us to have that person to person interaction with those customers. And we haven't been able to be satisfied that AI would be smart enough to know how to schedule, because if we get a call for a portable toilet, it's pretty simple. Where do you want it? How many times a week do you need it serviced? How many people are going to be using it? I mean, there's a series of questions that are real easy for AI
Right.
to fill out all that stuff, and then it could easily put that over onto whoever's route that's supposed to go on. I could see a path to where AI could complete that. But when it comes to the septic side, we're dealing with realtors who are trying to get inspections. I just had a call this morning from a realtor, and she's real worried that this house that she's got a customer looking at is going to have problems with root infestation into the lateral lines. And so in her mind, she immediately went back to, we're going to have to rip those lines out and put new lines in. And I'm like, well, you can't put new lateral lines where old lateral lines used to be. That's a state rule. Well, how is that possible? And so now I'm having to explain all this stuff to her about why that's not a deal. And then it's like, okay, well, we could send a camera in there and look and see if there's actually roots. And if there are roots, there's a chemical we can use to actually kill the roots.
Right.
You can take the trees out, but there's so much to what we do on the septic side that we have to analyze before we can designate which crew is supposed to go work on that particular job. How much time is it going to take? How much do we allot for that? There's a lot that goes into it. And I haven't been able to get my admin team to feel comfortable about allowing AI to take our customers all the way to a booking, because they're not sure. They just don't want people to fall through the cracks. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely I know people have concerns across the board with, how comfortable are they kind of letting the reins loose
Right.
to AI to start doing things. I mean, same thing with us. Like there's varying levels of complexity for different types of issues. Like you're getting pop-ups on your computer. That's pretty simple. Maybe we create a ticket and we call you back or something,
Right.
versus your server is down and that's affecting the entire company. That's a 911 emergency, get somebody
Right.
on the phone immediately kind of thing. So there's different nuance to it and helping but that's all part of training the AI. Is training it to understand, providing it with the knowledge-based articles it needs to work off of in order to better understand your business. So, it
Yeah.
could be something that's a big area of focus on the AI side of things is we want to create an AI receptionist for ourselves internally to start using. And I think that's a big area that we can save clients time with, not to eliminate people's jobs, because that's not what we're going for. What we're going for is make people's jobs easier. So instead of
Right.
the admin answering the phones all the time, the admin can be following up on past due invoices, or
Right.
maybe reaching out to new potential client leads and things like that. So things that drive your business forward instead of
Hmm.
answering the phones all the time. And the phones are important, right? But
Right.
if there's 50 calls a day and you could take 10 of them off their plate and free up X amount of time, kind of like to your point with your machine that helps them dump the trucks faster. If you're dumping it in 10 minutes versus 45 minutes and you can squeeze in 1 or 2 more dumps in the day, that's, another
Right.
$500 times however many trucks you have, times you
Right.
see where the math adds up over time. So if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can have it to where it's intelligent enough to say that, oh, I need a, portable toilet delivered or picked up or cleaned out or whatever the case may be. And that's a simple, here's our schedule for the crew that handles that. And it books it on there for them automatically, allows them to change appointments if they need to, those kind of things. But if it's something more complicated, like, hey, I need a septic tank clean out or a septic tank inspection, that may be a little more nuanced. Okay, hold on a minute. Let me get you somebody that can help you. And then
Right.
it transfers
Yeah.
them over. And then they take those calls because those are more complicated. But
Sure. Sure.
maybe easy,
We've been,
maybe a little bit at a
yeah,
time, training it and things like that.
I'm not sure how that would look, but I mean, I look at it every day. We've actually got a subscription to ChatGPT that our whole office uses. I had a deal. I mean, look, I'm just a blue collar. I'm uneducated, I'm just a dude. And we get these these emails from these events that we're going to show our Muck Raker, and they send out a request for abstracts. If you want to speak at this venue at this event, then they request an abstract. I'm like, what the hell's an abstract? And then I had a girl that was working for me, and so she actually said, hey, I think you should speak at this show. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to speak about? She said, you want to talk about the clean water farm and explain to people what we're doing? Great, let's do that. Well, she filled out all the stuff and submitted it, and then it went really well. And then now she doesn't work for me anymore, and she's had a lot of family issues, and so she's not readily, I can't reach her all the time. And so I sent her a message. I said, hey, they're asking for this abstract thing. What did you send to this show? Because I want to just turn around and send it to this show. Well, she didn't respond to me, so I got on ChatGPT and I said, hey, I need to do an abstract for this show, and this is what I want to talk about. And it's like, okay, well, tell us more about this. Tell us more about that. So I typed all this stuff in. And so then I hit the enter button, and a millisecond, it's like blah, 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 populates it on the screen. Here's your abstract. I'm like, that's crazy. And then it says, would you like us to turn this into a PowerPoint? And I hit yes. And then it said, would you like to have us create an introduction so that when they're introducing you on stage, they can read this? Yes. Would you like us to create a shorter introduction? Yes. Would you like us to create an outro that they can say after you leave the stage? Yes. Would you like to, and I'm like, so I don't know anything. I don't even know what an abstract is. Now it's like, I feel like I'm very proficient in being able to submit all of my own stuff to these shows because I just knew to ask the right questions. But isn't that the case with everything in life? Isn't it? Even in owning your own business, it's not about the answers. It's about knowing the right questions, right?
And that's how you ChatGPT is a wealth of knowledge, but if you don't know the right question to ask it, and same thing with technology, when we're troubleshooting something, you have to have, even if I don't know how to fix it, I have to at least understand what's going wrong in order
Right.
to research how to make it work or fix
Yeah.
the issue. I
Yeah.
had a printer one time that I can't remember what was happening with the printer, but I went to do an update on it and it hung up during the update and it bricked the printer. And so it's like a $700, $800 printer. And I'm like, what am I going to go throw this thing in the garbage now or what? It's like a very nice HP color laser jet. And so I did several different ways to search troubleshooting the bricked printer. And I finally found an article on how to put the firmware on like a little USB stick, boot it up on that. It automatically like forces a recovery update and that fixed it. But I had to search several different ways to
Right.
find the actual solution to the problem. And without knowing things to type in, you're not going to get the right answer. So somebody
Right.
who doesn't think outside the box is not going to be able to get to the point that you got to. You were able to do that and then get your entire answer and more.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just, I mean, another example, normally I've got a graphic designer, and I actually was in the music industry for about 25 years in my earlier life. That's a whole nother story. But my wife created a lullaby for our third granddaughter. Each of our granddaughters have their own lullaby that my wife has written and produced for them, and they've actually been recorded and they're on iTunes and that kind of thing. Because I knew how to do all that, so I mean, we just did it. Well, I'm sitting there the other night trying to load this thing out to where it will go out to all the digital, Amazon and iTunes and all that. And it called for the album cover artwork. And I'm like, well, I haven't created an album cover for it yet. Well, I saw what we did with the first two that I actually paid somebody to do them. And so I got on ChatGPT at 11 o'clock on a Wednesday or whatever at night. And I'm like, hey, can you create and I copied the requirements that they required on the artwork, right? The
Right.
size and the format and all that kind of stuff. I said, can you create something that fits this format that has these guidelines? I need it to have this name in it, and I need it to, and I want to make it look like somebody did a pencil drawing of Ivy on this, because our granddaughter's name is Ivy Joy. And so I want to have a picture of this, like a pencil drawing of Ivy that has the name Ivy across the front of it. And I mean, ChatGPT was like 3 seconds, and here I've got this artwork. I created an album cover. Now, it was simple, and it's not nearly as complicated as it would have been back when we had our full group and we were, touring and all that. But for what I needed for that night, and I'm not a graphic guy, right? So I would have had to have gone to my marketing team, or my graphic guy, and say, can you create this image for me? And I would have had to have paid him his time and efforts to do that and everything else. And ChatGPT did it for me in 3 seconds. So
Yeah, it's
it's just
crazy
wild.
what it's able to
Yeah.
do. And it's really advanced in very short order. It's going to be amazing to see what it can do over the next couple of years. Well, and we're coming up on the hour. In closing, do you
Yeah.
have any advice for other business owners, or any other thoughts on technology or AI or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a forever learner. And if you're going to do anything, especially with the way, I mean, dear Lord, when I was a mechanic and I had a record business, the cell phones, only the extreme elite had a cell phone. And there was little Miss Betty Lou that worked at it was actually a two-way radio, and she would make the phone call at the place where she was sitting, and then she would hold the receiver, in essence, up to the two-way radio for your car. I mean, it wasn't like actual cell phone communication. I had guys that had big record businesses that would respond because they were listening to police scanners, and they had their own two-way radio towers at their places where they could reach out and touch their trucks when they needed to.
Mm-hmm.
And I might drive from Jacksonville to Little Rock, take me 45 minutes to go pick up a car, only to find out that they had called my office 10 minutes after I left and said, never mind, I got it running. And I would have to get to where I'm going, get on the payphone, say, I can't find this deal. And say, well, they called and said it wasn't there, or they were able to get it started. So I've got an hour and a half dead run because I had no way of communicating at the time, right? Then pagers came in, and so that made it a little better. And then cell phones came in, and that, with cell phones, it collapsed timetables, right? Because now we could immediately communicate everywhere. I feel like that acceleration is still happening today. And at 61 years old, if I don't understand how my software interacts with my scheduling, interacts with my accounting, interacts with my teams in the field, if I don't understand all that, I'm losing ground by the minute. You've got to stay informed, and whether I'm the guy that's learning that, or whether I employ the people around me to know, I have the vision, I have the overarching vision, but I
Right.
have to make sure that these guys around me know how they know the direction I'm going, and they need to fill in the gaps underneath, and they need to be learning. Same way with your tax accountant, right? If they're not staying up to date with how they've changed things in Washington this year, you could make a colossal mistake in your tax filing this year and lose out on a mega amount of discounts and
Yep.
write-offs, pay in extra money that you shouldn't pay in. They have got to keep up with that continuing ed every year to make sure that they know what the rules of the game are today.
Correct.
Right? Google is forever changing their thing. It is not a set it and forget it deal. Just because you're number one in Google listings today and your keyword search is right, doesn't mean it's going to be right tomorrow, because they may go in and change their algorithm. And now all the stuff that you've done over the last 5 years means nothing. You've
Yep.
got to recreate it from ground zero, because they changed how they're going to look at it. And if you don't have a team that's keeping up with that, then you may be on top today, but tomorrow you may be floundering around. And it's that I find that in everything that we do. And I mean, listen, we pump shit for a living, right? We're not in a glamorous industry. But
Right.
even with how rough and nasty our business is, if we don't stay on the razor's edge for knowing how to communicate with each other, how to keep up with our finances, how to keep up with our Google reviews, how to keep up with our web leads, if we don't keep up with all that, it doesn't take long for us to fall back. And so the old adage, you're either growing or dying. If I was going to make a suggestion to anybody at any stage in business, is be a constant student, be a constant learner,
Yep.
and be able to surround yourself with people who know more than you do, but that can follow your overarching vision. And if you're not the visionary, get somebody that is a visionary that can see the broader aspect of how this is going to impact everybody along the way. That's why we've developed these other companies. We've got this overarching, we understand where everything is going in our industry right now, and we're ahead of that tidal wave that's coming in, which is going to position us to be able to monopolize pretty much on how all this is done.
Yep.
So be a constant learner. I've got a buddy in the plumbing business, got another buddy in HVAC, and I'm like, what is the one thing that you make the most money doing with the least amount of effort? And if there was one little gadget or one little app or one little something that you could do that would change and add more time back into your schedule, what would it be? I'm not that smart a guy. I was just able to look at, I'm blessed because I don't have to be in the day to day. I can sit back. I can watch our trucks come in. I can watch how they're dumping. I can watch, okay, well, how can we shorten that? Do I use a different kind of pump? How do we shave more time off of that? I'm able to look at that because I've got the freedom to do that. But you've got to have that ever hunger driving mode that is everything is always changing. And how does that affect my industry? Are there things that other people are doing in other industries? I've got a maintenance program that it's a membership thing. And so when people go to sell a business, you always hear this blue sky, right? I have thousands of customers that pay a monthly bill. It's ACH'd out of their bank account. A lot of HVAC companies do this with their, they will sign people up for a maintenance program, yep. Right? Okay, well, why can't I do that? So I did that. And so we took, what does it cost to pump your septic tank out once every 5 years? And then how much bacteria is going to cost to put into your system over that time frame to keep your system healthy. And we divided that by 60 months. And then we just have this monthly fee. Well, now I've got thousands of people on my books. Those are contracts. So if I ever did sell my company, I'm not just selling the chance for them to work on, to have customers. I've got thousands of customers that are contracted on a maintenance program. By the way, that cash flow that comes in every first of the month is like an annuity that it's in your bank account. You didn't have to do anything to get it. It just renews and renews and renews, right? And then the beauty of it is I know when those customers are coming up due for their pump out. Okay. So if I get a call for a job on their street, and I know they're in a plus or minus 2-month window of their anniversary date. Now I just add this maintenance call customer onto that guy's schedule. And so now he's got to pump this one out. And then he very likely can just move the hoses to the next yard to pump that one out. Never has to move the truck. I've collapsed timetables on man hours, fuel, scheduling, the whole 9 yards. And I've been paid for that monthly for the last 5 years. So there's things like that. I mean, what is somebody doing in another industry that you can do in yours? It may not be exactly the same, but manipulate it to where it fits what you do.
Yep.
Right.
And that's what we've done a lot in IT back in the day used to be very much, we call it break fix, somebody, kind of like what you were just alluding to. You would wait until they would call to get the septic tank pumped, but instead you're proactively pumping it when it needs to be pumped. And then they're paying that out over time instead of, this big chunk of money that I can't afford right now. Instead, it's the same thing like with us. If we go and we set a client's network up correctly, we put maintenance programs in place for their computers. We proactively talk with them about, hey, you've had this computer for 3+ years. It's probably time to start cycling your workstations out. Right. And don't do them all at the same time. Maybe let's do these first 10 this quarter, these next 10 this quarter, and kind of spread that cost out. But then you still have the maintenance coming in every month. And that's powerful. Right. That's powerful. It's just kind of turning things on their head, especially for your industry. I'm sure, I don't know how many other people out there are doing that, but I love how you've just found all these efficiencies here and there. And now the wastewater people are paying you to dump their solid waste.
Right. Yeah. That's one of my favorites.
Yep. That's just that must give you a certain sense of joy at the end of the day to know that, hey, these guys used to screw us all the time and now they're the ones getting screwed.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you can say they were screwing us and we're screwing them back, but I mean, yes, I think about that in that way, but I like to think about it in the way that I used to be at their mercy and I had no choice. Whether it's being screwed or not, it's a part of doing business. I mean,
Sure.
they have to charge us for taking it, but they don't have to make it easy, and so now I will never get a phone call that says, "Hey, you can't dump here anymore," or "We're going to, it was 10 cents a gallon today. Tomorrow it's going to be 30 cents a gallon." I will never get one of those phone calls ever again. My competitors will. Right. And people are like, well, you could take your competitors' waste and you could charge them and that'd be a profit center. Yeah, it could be. But how many of my competitors have got $1 million to vertically integrate? And, I could charge them the dump fee, or I could let them have their capacity diminished. And then I just get that many more customers where I make the money for pumping it out. I make the money for fixing it, and I make the money for the dump fee. I could capitalize on all three parts of the profit instead of on just one. So, and is that maniacal? I don't know. Maybe it's just being a smart businessman.
I think it's being a smart businessman. You solved a problem that you guys had because you thought outside the box, and now you're going to profit from it. I think that's great.
But there's no law that says I have to solve that problem for everybody else.
Right. That's correct. That's
I
correct.
mean, if you guys know how to fix a computer in half the time and you figured out there's a green wire somewhere that if you cut it, now all of a sudden the system speeds up, you're not required to tell everybody everything you know, right?
Yep.
I mean, so, and I've not been, now we have kept this close to our chest on how we've done what we've done, but we're 5-6 years into the clean water farm. We're 2+ years into the vibratory screen with the Muck Raker and Vibra Waste. I've waited till we were far enough ahead of everybody to where no matter who comes in and tries to do what we're doing, they can't catch us, because it's easy to say what we've done, but there are countless hours, there's countless mistakes, there's countless hurdles that we've had to go over that even if they tried to catch me starting today, they're still going to be 4 or 5 years behind me because
Yep.
they haven't already gone down this road. So I feel like we're safe. I mean, people are like, okay, you should patent this. Okay, I patented it, but I'm really not, I don't live out of fear. I'm not worried about people stealing my idea. I'm confident somebody could look at what I've built and they could build their own. I have no problem with that. Now, if they start trying to sell them, that's where we have a problem. But I can guarantee you there's at least a dozen aspects of what our machine, how we got it to make and do what it does, that it's going to take somebody else probably a year or 2 years to figure it out, just like it took us that long.
Right.
Right. And we're so far down the road now that we've got little things about it that are secrets of the trade, that those are not listed out in the patent,
Yeah. There's little
and that'll,
nuances to it.
right.
So yeah, maybe this component, that component put together to do something. That's the
Right.
simple part. It's figuring out all the nuances to it that make it complicated. And that's where all your years of experience and your research and time and everything
Right.
really paid off. So yeah.
Like I said, I've got guys that I know they're looking at our prototype or our machine and they're making their own. God bless them. But I know that they're not going to be able to produce what we've produced because very few people would take the time to figure out what all we've figured out. I mean, we can drive, our machine is supposed to be run off of a 3-phase electrical grid. They're 3 horsepower motors. There's 3 of them involved in the machine. And where we have our depots set up, I don't have 3-phase power available anywhere because they're not anywhere near industrial lines, right? And so, and the cost to get 3-phase power to some of our locations, I mean, it would be hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I just had to create a machine that now I can run it off of a 30 amp RV plug, same thing that your oven runs off of in your house or your welder runs off of
Yep.
in your shop, and it's single phase power. Well, how did I do that? Well, I mean, there's magic boxes that you can buy that will make that happen. But even if I told you what we did, knowing how to program those things properly, it's going to take you a while to figure it out. It took me, I've been through 3 different electrical engineers to get it figured out to where it runs, and it runs with no problem. But again, even those 3 guys, none of them know the whole step of the story. And I didn't do that by design. Each one of them helped me fix a problem, and that kind of reached the end of their knowledge. And I said, okay, well, we've still got a problem here. So I found the next guy, and he's like, well, yeah, here's your next thing you got to do. So we've got our control box that runs this machine, the intellectual property that's in there. And even if you opened it up and looked at it, I don't know if you could figure it out.
Take a
It's just
master in
not.
reverse engineering.
Yeah, yeah. It's just so. Anyway,
That's awesome. Well, John, I really appreciate all your time today and really enjoyed our conversation. I didn't know how interesting the conversation was going to be talking to somebody who pumps septic waste.
right?
But yeah, it's actually very fascinating. I loved hearing about your business journey and the struggles along the way. I mean, that's what makes it real. You know,
Oh yeah,
everyone just thinks like you just woke up one day and just, oh, I'm going to start this company and just everything falls into place. And look at me now. I surpassed $1 million and now we're at 4 or
yeah.
whatever. And it's like, no, that's not. There were struggles along the way. There was,
Oh,
trials
absolutely.
and tribulations and all that kind of stuff. So that's part of owning a business. But it's
Yep.
very rewarding, I think, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I live a great life. People are asking me like, when are you going to sell? And I'm like, or when are you going to retire? I'm like, why would I retire? I get up every day and I got up today and had my coffee and did a few things, and now I'm on a podcast. I mean, you know,
That's a
when I
good
get done
morning.
here, I'm going to get my side by side and go check my cows down on the south pasture and see if we got any new calves coming in. I mean, it's just, I live a great life and I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I don't know. I mean, retire. I guess I'm already retired, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I still have a purpose. I still have things I'm doing,
It's important to keep your
and
brain active because I know
absolutely
there's a gentleman that and your body as well, not just your brain, but also your body. Make sure you work those out on the daily. There's a gentleman that plays saxophone at a local Italian restaurant we have up here. And I remember one of the first times I shook his hand, he had a really, really firm grip. And I saw him flexing his arm and I was like, man, I grabbed his arm. I was like, man, you got some guns on you. He's like, yeah, I work out a lot, blah, blah, blah. I was like, how old are you? 5 years
yep,
old. I was
yep,
like, you're 75? He goes, yep, honest to God. And I was like, wow, if I can have half the arms you do in fitness and health and whatnot at 75, I'd be just, you see so many
yeah,
75-year-olds are just old and decrepit,
yep,
can barely get out of bed in the morning, struggle to get around. But that's because if you live a sedimentary life, you don't do anything, you don't exercise your brain, you don't exercise your body,
right,
then that's what
yep,
happens. Like a
yep.
car that you don't start every day.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons my schedule was open today was because I'm a week ago yesterday I had my left knee replaced. So I'm actually sitting here talking to you with my leg propped up on a chair next to me because I'm still supposed to be using a walker. I'm not using it anymore. But yeah, man, you can't keep a good man down. And yeah, okay. So I had a knee replacement. Big deal. I got shit to do.
Yep. Got to exercise that, within reason. Obviously, the more exercise you can do, the quicker you
Right.
can recover and then get back to your normal day to day.
Absolutely. Man, it's been great. I really appreciate you reaching out to me. If there's anything I can do in the future, we can talk about other things. I'd love to be able to visit with you about it. If you want to continue visits about franchising and how you did it, I'd
Yeah.
love to have some discovery discussions on that. And I'm very much a student of trying to figure out how we implement that as well. So if there's any of those subjects that you can help me with, that'd be awesome.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I'd love to have more conversations about all of those. I think the amount of time and effort that you guys have put into everything operationally, efficiency wise, the technology integrated together to run your whole company, and then your inventions on top of it. I mean, that somebody else who sees the value in that and goes, you know what? I could take that system and I could replicate it up in Colorado, in
Right.
Texas, in Oklahoma, wherever. I mean, imagine today that somebody gives you all the information that you've learned over the last however many years that you've had your
Oh yeah.
company and you started
Right.
today again from scratch, but you had all the knowledge you have right now. You could
Right.
get to where you're at today much quicker. So yeah,
Right.
there's a ton of value there. So yeah, let's continue that conversation. Really
Yeah.
appreciate your time today, John. Thank you so much and
You bet,
wishing
Wes.
you a
Good to
speedy
visit with you.
recovery with your knee.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you.